Today I'm going to be wrapping the window trim on my 340 gloss black. I don't hate the silver that it came with, but it's not in the best condition and I just want to switch up the look to something a little more sporty. Now before we get started, I just want to say that I am not an expert vinyl installer. Matter of fact, this is only going to be my second time ever doing this. So maybe don't look at this video as like the textbook guide to how to do this, but rather watch me attempt it as a novice and see if it's something that you want to try for yourself at home. All of the tools and supplies for this job will be linked down in the video description. For my BMW 3 Series, I got a 2-inch roll that will cover most of the trim. For this rear section, it's a little wider than the rest, so I bought a larger piece that can cover this whole rear kink separately. By the way, I'm using 3M 2080 in gloss black. This job should be pretty straightforward except for the mirrors. They physically touch the trim and I can't even get a piece of dental floss in between them, let alone a thick piece of vinyl. The mirrors will likely have to come off, but we'll figure that out when we get to it. I'm using isopropyl alcohol to clean the surfaces. I want to make sure that they're free of any dirt or oil that would cause the vinyl to not stick. Then I'm putting masking tape around the trim. The tape will make it easier to reposition the vinyl as we go, and it adds a tiny layer of protection between the knife blade and the paint. Because I'm doing the top trim in 2 sections, I want the front to overlap the rear, that way it's less likely to peel at highway speeds. That means this section needs to be wrapped first. Get the vinyl into position and massage it into place with the squeegee. I made some relief cuts on the inside to make this inner corner more flexible and to get the excess material out of the way. Once you've got the vinyl in a position you're happy with and you've pulled out the air bubbles and wrinkles, warm it up with the heat gun and continue to press the material in. I got a pair of applicator gloves that allow you to smooth the vinyl out without the friction you'd have touching it with your bare skin. I trimmed the excess, leaving about 2mm around the edge to tuck in. On the inside, I gently cut the vinyl on top of the rubber weather stripping, then tucked the excess underneath for a perfectly clean edge. Alright, so what did we learn so far? It's a lot more difficult than I remember. Like at any given moment you feel like you're one tiny little slip up away from having to rip the whole thing off and start over. But I was able to wrap this whole section and I had about 2mm of overhang on both the inside and the outside. And then like I showed on the inside part, I was able to tuck the excess under this rubber weather stripping under the door. I only made one little mistake here. I cut the vinyl a little bit too short, but it's like smaller than a fingernail and you can't see it when the door is shut. So this is going to get a pass for me right now. I'm going to go ahead and finish the rest of the upper trim. Alright, so I messed up this section, but I'm still going to show you what I did wrong and explain what I did to correct it. Here's the thing with vinyl. It is forgiving in the sense that you can lift it up and you can reposition it and you can heat it up and make it more flexible. But it does have a limit. Eventually you can stretch it past the point of no return where the wrinkles start to get worse rather than better, while the adhesive on the back loses its tackiness. But I realized something that made the second attempt go much better. So after my first attempt with this section, I had an aha moment, and that is that the trim is circular like this. The inside, it like goes from inside to out and it's got that curve. Which is fine until you get to that kink in the window. So the first time that I did it, I had put the vinyl flat on the outside and then tried to kind of tuck the excess material in. The problem is when you get to that bend, everything on the inside wants to wrinkle up and no amount of heating it or trying to stretch it was getting those wrinkles out. In fact, it was just getting worse and worse. And eventually I just ripped it all off and started that section over. So the second time that I did it, I kind of split the difference and I put the vinyl on at a 45-degree angle underneath, and that gave me enough stretch on the inside where I was able to get into that curve, but also enough material on the outside that I was able to flatten out to the top of the car. I should have mentioned this earlier, but this 3M vinyl has a protective film to keep it from getting scratched during shipping and installation. I found that the vinyl was just a little bit more flexible after peeling this film off. On this top section, I stuck the vinyl on with 2mm of excess on the outside, that way I could simply fold it over rather than needing to cut it. I'm heating up the vinyl with a heat gun and pressing out the remaining wrinkles and making sure that we get good adhesion on the folded side. All that's left is to carefully trim the inside with the knife. I found that extending the blade as little as possible gave me more control, and wearing the applicator glove on my left hand helped me guide the blade smoothly. One final pass with the squeegee and we're good. Onto the lower trims. I didn't see a way of doing this section without taking the mirrors off, but luckily they weren't too hard to remove. Popping off this door handle trim reveals 2 T20 screws. Then, use a thick boy pry tool to get your fingers under the door skin and pull straight back. I always find it easiest to start at the bottom. Pull back the speaker shroud and unplug the mirror, then remove 3 T30 bolts holding it in place. Pro tip, keep them all slightly threaded until you can get your other hand on the mirror, that way it doesn't just fall off the car. I cleaned this piece under the mirror, which hadn't seen daylight since the car was assembled. Since there wasn't much room on the top side to tuck under, I lined the vinyl up with the top edge of the trim, leaving only about 1mm of excess to tuck in, meaning that again, I'd only need to cut the bottom side. I'm applying some heat and pressing it on. Be mindful using the heat gun near the glass if you're doing this on a cold day. Squeegee, squeegee, squeegee. Notice how I have my blade angled up slightly. You really want to get the blade in that gap between the trim and the door. Don't cut downwards where the blade is going into the paint. For these end caps, just get them nice and warm and give them a good stretch over the ends. So what did this all cost? For the 2 rolls of vinyl, it was around $80 total, and the quantities and the square footage that I'm going to link down in the description is going to give you enough to do both sides, plus a little left over in case you make mistakes. I also spent around $32 for tools and supplies, so you're looking at around $112 total for everything that you need to get this job done. Now, I already owned a heat gun prior to doing this project, but this exact one that I used was around $170. Now, you can definitely find these cheaper on Amazon, especially if you go with the corded option, so I'm just going to put a general link to heat guns down in the description. This was harder than I remember from the first time that I did it on my E90, but also my standards are a lot higher, so like it was this internal battle of like knowing where I wanted the quality to be at versus what my skill level was actually able to deliver, but we got it done and it looks great. But I will say it definitely got easier as I went along. After everything that I learned on the driver's side, I was able to knock out the passenger side in about half the time. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new here, feel free to browse my channel for other DIY videos just like this one, and I'll see you guys in the next video.